Hey, and welcome to episode three of
That's it.
Roman's Rundown. Thank you, Dave. And we're with Steve, Roman, myself, and Dave taking care of me. So we're talking today about, we're going into real quick. Dave and I were talking before we got on the mic about the Knicks.
Yes.
And it is quite extraordinary for any legitimate Knicks fan out there, because as Dave and I discussed, these happenings haven't happened since 1994, I believe, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, they've had more wins, or at least they tied the amount of wins that they haven't had this many wins in January since 1994. And if you're a Knicks fan and all know what happened in 1994, besides the O.J. Simpson chase, there was a Knicks team that made the NBA Finals. So, dude, it's been a lot of fun to watch this team. You don't want to get too excited, but I think I finally. Do you have any kind of PTSD when it comes to your sports teams? Like you just expect them to just kind of like rip your heart out? Is that like where you're sitting as a fan too?
Yeah, that's such a great point that you bring up, because being a Knicks fan, which we are, even being a Yankee fan now for a long time, being spoiled Yankee fans, you have that feeling, even with the Yankees now. Oh my God, we don't have anything to watch now in September. It
Right.
happened again. Giancarlo struck out.
Yeah. Again.
Again.
Yeah. Well, listen. It seems to be. It just seems to me that this is a little different. I think the last time the Knicks were as competitive and as exciting was around the time that Carmelo Anthony was doing his thing in New York. But even those teams felt like it was a one-man band with Carmelo Anthony. He seemed like and look, great scorer, great all-time player, but it just felt like he was a me guy. Where this time around, man, Jalen Brunson, he makes everybody better on the court.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a great point. I mean, you're probably giving Carmelo Anthony more credit than I would like to give him, because he was such a selfish player. Patrick Ewing suffered from that a little bit too, who was a great player. I feel if Patrick Ewing was a little bit more willing to give up the ball sometimes, I think sometimes the Knicks might have been able to break through. And that was something about Patrick Ewing that I don't know if he was from the islands, or his attitude, or the way he was built by John Thompson through Georgetown, and had that underlying, late 80s, 90s. You came from John Thompson, so you have to behave a certain way. You're a man of color. So it was a tight vibe with him. And Ewing was one of my favorite players of all time, that team with Oakley, Anthony Mason, and poor Charles Oakley. Boy, he got traded. And back in the day, Michael Jordan did everything he could with Jerry Krause, the GM of Chicago, to try to hold on to Charles Oakley, because he was such an enforcer. And Michael foresaw the future of what was going to happen and figured before Rodman or before Ori, some of those great players, he wanted Oakley to be part of that family. Unfortunately, and fortunately for us, it was great to watch Charles Oakley enforce the Knicks for a decade plus. And what they did to him at the Garden, I don't want to talk about, was very unfortunate. It's a bad situation, and Dolan should fix that, like other things we've talked about. But let's not jinx anything. Let's try to stay on topic. That's me. Staying on topic. So yeah, those teams, Patrick Ewing, the selfishness, Carmelo Anthony, great player, amazing scorer, did some great things at Syracuse. But like you said, this team, that Villanova flavor of a smaller school, very intimate, sharing the ball, moving the ball. If you watch them the last 20 games, and I know they've won 9 in a row, I believe now, you could see players like DiVincenzo is slowly starting to grow. take big shots, hit big shot night after night. It's just not a 25-point night, and then you don't see him again. He's distributing the ball. He's a huge outlet. I mean, I really think we've discussed it too. Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, DiVincenzo, and even the kid Ryan Arcadia. He's a kid that's on the bench. He's a guard. He's from Villanova too. Believe it or not, he's making a couple $1 million a year. It's just good chemistry. It's just a good vibe.
Like you were saying before, a lot of the NBA now, and look, this might be me, the old school, old man, like shaking fist at clouds kind of thing. But like, I feel like the NBA has gone from a system to hey, let's find a 3-point shooter who could just shoot the lights out of the ball. More like a Steph Curry type brand of player where they could shoot from pretty much anywhere on the court. And it's like dribble up, pass to Curry, bang, 3-pointer. They miss. They don't crash the boards. They get back on defense. You know what I mean? It's like, and some people get back on defense. I feel like there's no defense played until the playoffs. But what I will say is this team, and as you said before, the ball movement, man, it's all over the place, right? There's no stationary position. And that's what leads to a lot of high percentage shots with the Knicks now, where you're not just like, oh my God, like last year, maybe the year before that, there was a lot of shots taken by Julius Randle where you're like, what are you doing, man? You know what I mean? Like, where are you expecting that ball to go? Because it sure as shit ain't going in the net, right? So now I just feel like the looks are better and the ball movement's better and the camaraderie is better. And it just everything, we said it on the Jimmy Palumbo show, how we were all just kind of not gutted, but a punch in the stomach to see a guy like RJ Barrett leave and Emmanuel quickly leave. And you're thinking like, man, you traded away the nucleus of this team. But I feel like the OG effect is now your third man, and they've won 2 nights in a row without OG and without Randall. So it's just like they're creating players, they're creating space, and they're creating wins, man. And they're stockpiling these wins. And right now, as it stands, we record this on a Wednesday afternoon, they're a game out of the second seed in the East. Did you ever see that coming, Steve? Like, that's a little unheard of.
No, I can't believe we didn't even mention Mitchell Robinson.
And he's been out, right?
And he's been out. I mean,
so it's been Hartenstein. Hartenstein, like when we drafted, I was like, who? Like what are we doing? And even he's contributing on the big minutes underneath the board. It's just, I don't know, man.
It's a virus. It's spreading the virus of goodness.
Yeah,
which is like we don't really see today. You're throwing yourself on the bus by going, "Oh, I'm old school." I mean, we're not that old, but really, it's like, yeah, we appreciate it's a 5-man game,
right?
The old Golden State Warriors in their prime were incredible passers. Green, who's always in trouble over there.
Draymond, I mean, he reminds me of a Charles Oakley, honestly.
Listen, he's probably, I don't care what you say, top 5, 7 best big men, certainly top 10. That's selling him short. Big man passers in the league. He's got how many championships now? I mean, you can't doubt him. I mean, listen, he does take it sometimes to the next level, even where I don't know if Oakley went that far, but I'm not gonna play, I agree with you. That's a guy I want on my team. It's a guy that I want back in me and has done that job for that team. I felt that team in its prime was the best passing team I've seen currently since teams like the old 80s, the Boston Celtics, Larry Bird, McHale, Danny Ainge. Those guys were just ridiculous moving the ball. Some of the greatest teams we've seen, those older teams that could move and distribute the ball. And like you said, where is the defense? It's very refreshing to see. I mean, my daughter's more of a defensive player. She had 6 blocks the other night. It was like, it was nice to see. It was just refreshing to see. She had 6 points, 6 rebounds, but 6 blocks. It's a lot of blocks.
It is a lot of blocks.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was like Mutombo style, like
just doing the waving the finger.
Listen, we were punished a lot by him. the Knicks back in the
Yeah, we
day.
were.
He did, he's a great center. But getting back to the Knicks, Dave, I think it's really exciting. But I do have that feeling. I always get that nervous feeling because we've gotten excited. You bought a sweatshirt. I'm a little nervous to buy a sweatshirt, but I think I'm ready to pull the trigger and get something cool.
Yeah. It's been a while since I bought some Knicks merch. My last Knicks merchandise I bought was a John Starks jersey, or like I was actually one when I was playing basketball at the age of like, I guess I was like 8 or 9. Yeah, I was 9 years old playing like a rec league basketball. And I was the only one to show up with an Anthony Mason jersey. There was nobody like that, and I begged my mom and dad, can I please put some kind of design in the side of my head like Mason had, but to no avail. But those guys, I haven't bought Knicks stuff in a while because I'm just like, I'm not going to sink money into a team that's just going to keep letting me down. And look, 2 years ago, they made the playoffs, right? They get bounced by the Hawks. We're all dealing with, whoever that point guard. It's drawing a blank right now, but screw him. I hate him. Whoever that guy. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Who's the point guard of the Hawks? The bitch that keeps making,
Trey?
Trey Young. Yeah. So looks like a lollipop you found underneath the couch. So his hair. But yeah, we get bounced there, right? But then next year we came out last year and we win a playoff series, and we're like, okay, look at this team. And then you run into a buzzsaw known as the hottest team in the East at the moment when Jimmy Butler and the Heat. But we take them to the ropes a little bit, right? And then you get bounced in the second round. Now you got to look at this as if like there's no satisfaction in losing in the first 2 rounds this year. Like it's Eastern Conference Finals or bust for the New York Knicks this year, because it's like you're gradually building, and I think you're finally there. And if you look at the landscape of the East, and you know this better than me, you're looking around, you're like, all right, you know what? A lot of these teams could be had. And if you put me in a 7-game series with the Boston Celtics, I can't foresee that being a sweep by Boston. We can run with the Celtics. So all of a sudden you're thinking you have these championship aspirations for a team that, 3 weeks ago they made one trade and you're like, looks like they're punting on this season. And all of a sudden they're the hottest team in the league, and they're on the back of the Post and the back of the Daily News, and they're just the talk of the town right now. So it's refreshing.
Yeah, and I think me, you, and Jimmy represented 90%, 95% of New York and genuine Knicks fans when we didn't buy into it, when we weren't happy with OG. We were like, who is this guy? Right. We've been so conditioned over the years to be let down, and you want to throw in when the lollipop kid beat us with his blowout hair and his, candy stuck in there. But he's got the salary to take care of that and fix it up. What he will, we don't know. But we'll keep an eye on that on a sidebar. But I mean, you got to consider that it's very impressive what the Knicks are doing, but it's also, it's hard to buy in when it's been 30 years of failure and an owner that hasn't really taken a genuine interest. It's more like I'm watching the Super Bowl, which is happening in Vegas, and he's making more money from his bubble out there that he built, advertising for the Super Bowl. I mean, it's a really unique, cool thing, but it's like, it's more unique that you inherited the greatest franchise in basketball history and haven't done anything with them. So for us, it's hard to sort of buy in. And Jimmy didn't, you didn't, and I didn't. And I know that represented 95% of New York and genuine Knicks fans that were like, please, this is just some more bullshit. We're not going to bring in this OG. He will host blocks 4 shots and get 10 rebounds. It's not going to make or break a difference. But all of a sudden you bring in a guy, like I said, sweet guy, not really a street guy. A lot of the NBA, we could talk about guys doing the wrong thing, super talented guys that aren't really structured. And you look at the Knicks team, and even Carmelo's attitude or Randall's attitude, where he was fingering off the garden and taking those horrific shots. He didn't have really anyone flanking him. He didn't have someone to direct him like Tibbs, who won't take that shit. I feel they have a lot of respect for him in there. We could go back to the Giants where that was just debauchery. I feel the Knicks are in fine order. I feel like the coaching's there. I feel like the staff is fantastic, which is huge today for this generation. And I feel like Brunson is an easy kid to get along with. His father was in the game. He's a Villanova kid. He's surrounded by Villanova. I think Thibodeau makes a genuine effort to have a personality with each individual on that team. I feel it's family style, and it starts to bleed in from your head coach down. These guys believe in him. Haverstein may not be a guy that you'd expect all of a sudden to have 7 rebounds, 7 points, and 3 blocks. Huge points, huge rebounds, and was the turnaround of the game.
And it's a minutes eater too. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want these guys to be running to the ground. So when May, June comes around and it's playoff time, that they got no legs left. You know what I mean? And Tibbs has been infamous for kind of running his players into the ground a little bit, making sure that they're getting their quality minutes, but also quantity started to creep its ugly head last year specifically. But it seems like, the distribution of minutes, you're getting quality minutes out of guys that you just didn't expect to get quality minutes out of. So yeah, man, it's an exciting time for New York. Let's ride this wave. I feel like this is most of my teams that happened to me. Like, I'm a Cowboys fan. It's been, forever since they've been something. And the Knicks have been, they've gotten to a finals back in, I believe it was 99 or 2000, where it was the Sprewell days. And I love that team, man. Let me tell you something. That team was a lot of fun to watch. And I was a big fan of Sprewell, minus the whole, coach choking the coach thing. But I digress with that. But, it's just, it's a cool feeling right now. And I think that Knicks fans, if you're out there and you're watching this program, I think it's okay to start getting excited. I said that today in the Chop Sports Facebook group. I said, it's okay to start really starting to feel like, hey, this could be something. And I'm not saying like go out there, puff your chest down, say we're going to the finals or it's a championship team. We don't know that. We're not battle tested yet. Not this team. Because not only are they winning games, Steve, they're winning games by a lot of points. Like there's not many close games. They're beating the brakes off of some of these high quality teams. And it's just like, oh, all right. Sometimes if I don't get around to watching the whole game and I'll just get the update of the score real quick and it's like a halftime lead and I'm like, okay, they're up at half, I'll tune in a little bit and maybe something will get in the way and I just won't be able to tune in. And then I'll see the final score. I'm like, whoa. Like how they pull this one off? You know what I mean? So it's exciting, man. It really is a good time to be a Knicks fan right now. And like I said, I'll just kind of ride the wave.
Yeah, I agree. I'm totally on board. It's like, it's totally something to look forward to. I feel like, it's almost like we're at a self-help group where, it's okay. You can actually put on your own.
This is the safe place.
Yeah, we're all in the same place. We're all like, all right, you can slowly put on those old Patrick Ewing sneakers.
There you go. There you go.
Ewing throwbacks.
Speaking of safe place, Steve, who's not in a safe place right now as far as the media is concerned? That's Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce as they're heading back to the Super Bowl as a dynamic duo. The Chiefs got their win. That was the one game we thought the Ravens had it, man. We thought the Ravens were going to go in there, take care of business. And all of a sudden, and I've been saying this and I've said this publicly, and I'm not like totally backing it up or fluffing my chest, but Lamar Jackson had a tendency that if you take him off his game just a little bit, he becomes very, very ineffective. Your thoughts on the Chiefs and the Ravens, and then we'll get into the Niners and Lions.
Yeah, I was so disenchanted with his play. It was awful. I mean, I really was expecting this guy to come out and show the world that he's, top 3-4 best quarterbacks. And like you said, he was just non-effective in every way. I mean, there was nothing really he did that was positive for his team. I mean, I was shocked, really. I was really very shocked. And I think you're right. It just was a little ripple in there. He didn't come out smooth, but wasn't able to recover. It didn't look good.
And not to mention, obviously, Lamar Jackson having himself a rough afternoon. The guy with the rougher afternoon was Zay Flowers. And sometimes when you look at this kid and you look at the way he's played his game in 2023 and 24, you're like, wow, man, they found themselves a legitimate wide receiver 1. Like the kid can go, or even a wide receiver 2 as a compliment to a guy like Beckham or the Rashad Bateman, and then they got Mark Andrews was coming back, so you figured that was going to be a big thing. But Zay Flowers, man, it's unfortunate that in today's NFL, you see a lot of this, and you were mentioning it a little bit when we were talking about the NBA. Some of these players are just very me, and they get wrapped up in the moment. And when you have one of the biggest plays in the game, and you get up and you practically spin the ball on the guy's chest, and you're flaunting, and it's just like, what exactly is going through your mind right now that in today's NFL, you didn't think you were going to catch a 15-yard personal foul on that? What's the mindset of somebody like that after a big play like that? Emotions aside, I get it. You're high on emotions right now, and you're very excited. But dude, what a drive killer! And then obviously the ultimate fumbling the ball on the one. Zay Flowers had himself a rough afternoon.
Is that karma? I mean, do you really? I mean,
it feels like a ball don't lie type situation, right?
Right. Like how do you have one of the most outstanding pre-game interviews where he's being interviewed? My daughter was like, wow, what a sweet, nice guy. And he really did a fantastic interview. I was like, wow, good for him. Whoever his PR guy is, whoever's flanking him, he did an absolutely 6-minute. If you didn't get to see it, look at the Zay Flowers pregame interview. It was fantastic. He was on for maybe 6-7 minutes, and he sounded. You couldn't ask for him to represent himself or his team any better. Well, he took that entire package, burned it up, and I don't know who I was watching on the field. If you were to say to me he would have done that after that catch, I don't know, it was a 27-yard catch, something like that. And then to get up and behave and stand in the face of the defender instead of just placing the ball while the stadium's erupting. You suck the life. One of the biggest plays of Baltimore's history. And you suck the life right out of it by giving back 15 yards. The crowd now isn't into the play. They're irritable. And now you're going downfield waiting for the real faux pas of breaking the back on your team, which unfortunately, and of course it was not purposeful and there was no intent, I don't believe, there at all. But, you set yourself up with karma. It was unnecessary to do that. It was you're lucky you got back in the predicament that you were in fact, because you could have got nothing out of it.
I believe it was Zay Flowers who got another first down on the same drive. And I said to my old man, I'm watching, I'm like, well, he got the penalty yards back. Let's see what happens now. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you fumble on the one, and, obviously they caught up with him after the game, and he said that, clearly he's busted up, and you could tell. And he said he's not going to let one play define him, but it wasn't one play. It was that drive. You know what I mean? Like, that entire drive is going to define your season, because you had a swell rookie campaign, man. You had some numbers. You lit up the scoreboard. You really did well. But at the end of the day, man, they're going to remember you for that last drive. And I get, look, Lamar throws a pick after that. We know the rest is history. But that drive, you and me both know, Steve, that football is a game of momentum. And that totally turned the tide of the AFC title game.
Absolutely. I mean, that was just like that was the backbreaker. They couldn't recover. I mean, you take away 7 points at that point, you score the touchdown. Lamar's in a better situation. Your offense is mentally sound. You're feeling good. Instead, your whole team implodes. And, again, it started with him acting like a jackass after making an absolutely superb play. And you're counting back 15 yards and killing the drive. And yes, he did. You're right. That was a good point, because watching the game, I still didn't feel that the catch. I was like, dude, that should have been the touchdown catch, because they brought you all the way back instead of regaining the yards. I'm glad you were able to do that. But now it's like the most important play. And yeah, you will be defined by this, because I feel had he gone through the play, made the great catch, gave the ball to the ref, which I always It's so weird now because I look for guys to do that opposed to the dance. I'm looking for guys to just give the ball back. Like I do this all the time.
We don't live in that
I
society.
know, bro.
Steve.
There's
We
the old
really
man
don't.
again. You're like, am I an old man? Give the ball back. But it's like, I get it. I sort of get it. But then when you're doing stuff like that, to that point, now you're end zone dance or taking pictures. That's containable. It's okay. You're not getting penalized. But in the middle of a drive to have such a mental lapse, and you could say, yeah, I'm high. We both played sports. We both have probably made some mistakes. But at that level, and neither one of us have played at that level, to be prepared for that highness to overtake you, to project that back into your team, not yourself. And that's all about you, bro. That's about the catch I made. I just beat you and fuck you in our little world. And it's really like, F you. You just did your whole team really dirty. Didn't expect it, and now karma bit you in the tushy on the goal line.
Yeah.
You couldn't complete something that was historical. And you have to live with that. You're a professional athlete. I know things happen, but a lot of that is just bad news, Dave. Horrible. And we were talking high about him too. And
Yeah, of course. And why wouldn't we? I mean, he had, like I said, a fantastic season. So, and before you mentioned, leaving points on the board as we segue into the NFC Championship game, you want to talk about something that's just been obviously the topic of conversation this week, and obviously no football this week because of the fact that there's the week in between. But Dan Campbell has made now a living on living on the edge and going for it when you just don't expect it, and the fake punts and the 2-point conversions and the tackle eligibles and all this shit that Dan Campbell has instilled into this team. And I'll also throw Ben Johnson in there, who is the offensive coordinator. These guys are a collective effort. What goes through the mind of an NFL head coach, Steve, to not take points in an NFC title game where there is no tomorrow? Like that, you have to play like that. You can't play like we go for it in week 12 and we lose the game, but don't worry, next week we won't make that same mistake. Now you can't make that mistake. You cannot go out there and screw the pooch one last time, knowing that there's points to be had. You know how hard it is to score in the NFL. Your thoughts on Dan Campbell and the way he basically screwed his own team out of an NFC title.
Yeah. Again, it's like I couldn't understand why he wasn't kicking the field goals. I didn't understand, you're not putting the 3 points on the board. They were chip shots. There were no guarantees on going for the touchdowns. He put himself out there. He gambled, I thought, with the team. What was a little obnoxious, and I do like him. I do like that he brings a team together. I do like some of the things that he's done. I really do. I was very happy for Detroit. He's an ex-Giant, which, doesn't mean anything to you. So there's a little bit of something there. But at the same time, you can't take those risks when you know how hard it is to score in the NFL. You're right there for the 3 points. You're just adding to your team's momentum, I feel, because if you don't get anything out of it at all, you sort of left in a predicament. And you should know that there is no tomorrow. So you're really better off being safe than sorry. You got this far. I have to take the points. I don't know if I would be saying how brilliant he was if they scored the touchdown, how we would be talking if they did. But at the same time, you can't really, it's all a risk factor. You've got to get the 3 points. You got to start the momentum. You got to get your team saying, we can score. We got our 3. We know the next time we're down here, we'll push the 7 or, get the 6 and then the extra point or what have you. Although we know the extra point is not guaranteed.
For me, it's just like I'm watching this as a fan and as a Cowboy fan and a football enthusiast who've learned the game at such an exponential level, right? I've coached the game, I've watched the game, I've studied film, I've done a lot, and I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy in the world, but every single time, no matter what the situation may be, I will not even hesitate to say the phrase "take the points." Right? Never. Screw the analytics. I know all sports have turned into this computer program where it's like all of a sudden, and you watch the broadcast, Steve, you see all the percentages say go for it, percentages say punt, percentages, all these fucking percentages. Analytics. I'm not that nerd. I'm sorry. I am the hard nose. Points are hard to come by. Do not screw this up. Kick the fucking field goal. There's no reason for you to go out there and play hero. Especially in an NFC title game when you have literally silenced the crowd in San Francisco. They had no answer for you in that first half. None, right? They were looking around like, what the fuck is happening right now in this situation? The Lions are not supposed to be doing this to us. And for you to turn that and swing the momentum the other way and pretend that don't worry about it, we got this. It goes from, and my dad said it best, there's a difference between aggressive and reckless. What Dan Campbell has done all season was get reckless. And sometimes it paid off, and sometimes it didn't. I just don't feel like in a big spot like this, bro, you just don't do it. You just don't do it. And I just feel like the Lions have such a storied – what? Say it again?
17-0?
No, when they were up 21-7, then they went up 24, and then they could have went up 27-7, and they decided, nah. It's like, and I'm like, bro, you can go up 3 touchdowns.
Yes.
It's like this that's a whole nother ball game. I always say it like this, and I know this is ridiculous, but this is the way I kind of – Bill Parcells is my favorite coach of all time, right? Like, obviously, I'm a Cowboys fan, so when he came to Dallas, all his successes in New York, I get it. So those years, screw you, Bill. But like when he came to Dallas to right the ship, he really did right the ship. And the way I learned by watching Bill Parcells coach a football game is get the lead, protect that lead with your life, run the football, run that clock out. I'm in there when I'm watching Cowboys games. It could be the third quarter with 4 minutes to go. And I'm thinking, okay, how many more possessions can that other team get? Right? How many more times if they get the ball? And we would have to do 0. The Lions were going to score points regardless. It was just a matter of how many more times Brock Purdy and that offense can get on the field. You gave them shit. Then there's fumbles. Then, all these again, the question of momentum. Does it exist? I think it wholeheartedly exists. Absolutely. It's just a crazy way to think when you're an NFL coach. I get it. You're that brash new guy on the block. I'm going to bite your kneecaps. We're going to fight. We're going to scratch, claw, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But then I think, be Bill Parcells. Be Bill Parcells. Get on the sidelines, score your points, run the clock out, live to see another day, and go on to the Super Bowl. If that was Bill Parcells or pretty much any coach under Parcells' tree or anything like that, the Lions walk into Las Vegas as your NFC champions. But instead, you got reckless, and I think it sucks because the Lions had such a really cool story. They had Eminem flipping off fans. They had all this fun shit with the city of Detroit, which they've never experienced before. And you know it just as much as I know it, Steve. It is so hard to win in the NFL. So what are the odds that the Detroit Lions get back there next year? It's not a good, you want to talk percentages? It ain't that high. It's very hard to get to those final 2 spots in any conference. And I think that they did themselves a complete disservice.
I mean, Campbell said he would do it again.
Of course he did. Of course. That's his, look at me, like, it's
I'm
just
surprised.
Like enough. If I'm the Detroit Lions, a fan of the team, and he says that shit like 2 days later, I'm like, go fuck yourself, Dan. Like, you don't do that.
Not even to say, I would have maybe thought it out just to say, I mean, I don't know if that puts him in a predicament, but I mean, how do you not at least think to maybe go for the 3 points at that point? Was there anyone in the coaching staff saying, hey, Dan, look, I'm
curious to know that too. Yeah, I'm very curious to know if anybody was in his ear like, hey, let's take those 3. And he's like, no. Right. And that is part, listen, that's part of the head coach's responsibility, specifically if you're Dan Campbell and you have an OC and you have a DC. As Dan Campbell, you're supposed to be like this leader of men, right? You're supposed to be the last guy to make that final decision. Like Mike McCarthy, on the other hand, for Dallas, he's also the offensive play caller. So he's got a lot of eggs in the offensive basket. So you have to rely on Dan Quinn and the defense and shit like that. If you're Dan Campbell, your only responsibility is to make the final decision of all these play calls that are coming through your own headset, and like, if somebody like Ben Johnson went out there and said, all right, man, field goal, let's get this team. And Dan Campbell's the one to say, whoa. Like, let's see what we got here. No, it's like, let's not see what we got here, man. Stop being the tough guy. Like, that shtick is up. And you better, that was the worst thing you could have said days later. Oh, I would have did it again. No, you wouldn't have.
Yeah, well, he couldn't accept that. I guess he figured, like you said, I'm going to come out with my bravado. That's how it's going to come across. Detroit's going to give me another shot probably because of, the success that I had, and I'm going to go with it. That could burn him again if someone in the organization, said to him, look, we should have, kicked a field goal there. That might have changed the momentum of the game too. You don't know. Another 3 points. Now you're just driving the knife deeper and sucking the life right out of that team. So, I don't know. I agree. I think that Dan Campbell certainly could have been a little bit more open-minded about his decision. Probably could have threw a lifeline to a couple of coaches out there that said, hey, coach, maybe we want to think about tacking on 3. Gives us a three possession lead. Now
Yeah, and like I said, the clock is running, man. Like, how many times can the San Francisco 49ers come out there and score touchdowns every drive? And yeah, did they go out there and really ball out? They did, but like, sometimes you're looking at opportunities, and maybe those opportunities wouldn't have presented themselves had they not had the ball on a missed 4th down convert. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's a lot that goes involved, and obviously we'll get deeper into the Super Bowl next week when the game is coming up and where it's going to feature the San Francisco 49ers, the Kansas City Chiefs. That'll be a lot of fun. Obviously, it feels like the world is rooting for the San Francisco 49ers to end the madness that is the Taylor Swift stuff, so I digress with that. I've talked about that at length already. I can't even ask your opinion because it'll spark an hour-long conversation. So staying on the female side of things, how are things going on with your daughters? I know last week you said that your daughter's JV team was rocking it. Are they still unbeaten?
Yeah, Dave, thanks for asking. Yeah, they're playing very well. They're 14-0.
Nice.
It's very exciting to see. My daughter had a great game. She actually had a great game last night. She had 6 blocks, which was, really a nice game from the defensive end. I think she had also 8 rebounds and 6 points. So definitely exciting to see, definitely enjoyable. My little one had her first game the day before. She's a 7th grader. She's 5'9", very tall.
How old is your oldest?
She's 15.
So what grade is your oldest in?
She's in the 10th grade.
So by the time she's a senior, your little one's going to be a freshman.
Right. They're going to.
Wow.
Eva pitches. Their main sport is softball. And I told you, Eva walked on to this team as a freshman. She was 14 years old and walked on and made the varsity team. They won the Suffolk County Championship. She pitched in the Long Island Championship. She got shelled, but she pitched. Listen, she was 14 pitching against 18-year-old women. And you would have saw my daughter throwing and been like, wow, doesn't look like the batters or the kids around her. Everyone was on an even field because it wasn't, because she was a freshman. But she's a good player, and, it's exciting to play at that level and have that kind of success. So, yeah, she's a righty, pitcher, softball. It's you throw the ball pretty hard.
What's she getting clocked at?
She's getting clocked at like 56.
Okay.
Which is pretty, it's coming in pretty good. She's got a rise ball, a curve ball. She's been working on it for 5 years. So it's not anything it takes work. Anything you want to be good at, you have to hustle, work hard. It's 2 things. It's, I tell her it's your attitude and your effort. Those are 2 things you can control. You
100%.
talk about the referees. You can talk about you got hit in the face, and it's all about your effort and your attitude. What are you going to put out? What are you going to do to make the difference? What kind of work are you going to do on the side of the house? How many buckets of balls will you hit? For every minute or hour you're on the phone, how much work are you putting in outside on the side of the house? Did you hit 50 balls into the net? Did you throw 50 pitches into the net? Listen, I'm available. I played. So they have a catcher built in. It's getting to the time with them. I coached you through Little League. And I said to Eva, she's now working. Last night she had a game. She played her game. They won. They're 14-0. Right after, she had to go to varsity workouts. It's winter workouts for another 2 hours.
Wow.
So she played her. Yeah, bro. She played her game. And then I'm sitting in the stands for, an hour and 45. I have a bag, 2 bats, her indoor, outdoor cleats, huge softball bag. I'm sitting there. I hand her a bag. A couple of people are like, what is she doing? I said, she's got to go to varsity softball to go work out. Listen, if nothing else, it's a good work ethic. It gets you in the mode to work. I have a woman. I'm going to raise a young woman that has the attitude. You have to work. You don't rely on anybody. You be the best you can be. You find a job with a pension. You find a job that's going to pay you the rest of your life. The world's in need of quality people, whatever you decide to do. So I'm trying to gear up these girls through athletics. I want them to be the best they can be. If I'm talking to you and Eva's a senior and Julia's a freshman, and Julia, who I do believe will play varsity softball next year in the 8th grade, she's a lefty. She's throwing about 49.
Wow.
She's only 12. What am I saying? 12? Yeah, she's 12 years old.
Yeah.
She's 12. She's throwing about 49. I mean, next year she's already almost 5'9". She's bigger than her sister already.
She's 5'9"?
She's 5'9", bro.
At the age of 12?
At the age of 12.
Shit, what are you feeding these girls?
Yeah, just feeding them whatever they ship over from Iowa comes in a bag.
Barnyard. It's like barnyard animals over there. Holy shit.
They graze. They don't stop eating, but it's like, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I'm telling you that, I said to Julia, listen, your sister set a standard to come in as a freshman. Look, you got to be accepted. She played every minute of every game. She batted 5 every game. She played some first base. She pitched 6 or 7 games. I think she was 5-2 like that. Hit 300, had one huge hit in a playoff game.
And now you're coming in. Now you're coming into that mode where sophomore going into her junior year playing varsity. You got probably colleges already starting to look around. You know what I mean? Like you got to start really starting
to showcases. Yeah, she's already going to University of Connecticut,
nice.
Hofstra, Rider, a couple of schools with her outside team. Where she plays on an 18U team. I mean, she's only 15. But she's playing with girls that are 18. So is Julia, though. The coach invited Julia, to go work out with them, too. I said to Julia, can you handle this? As out of concern. She's bigger than almost everybody. She's tall and lean, but she's still a baby. She hasn't really hit puberty yet, if you can believe that.
That's insane.
Which is insane. She
might wind up being over 6 foot tall, dude.
Yeah. Well, my wife played at Virginia, and she's 6 feet. She's a little under 6 feet, so... and I'm 6'2".
Are you 6'2"?
I'm 6'2".
Oh, you're a bulldozer too. All right, I'm 6'1.5". So you're up there with me.
Yeah, I'm big.
We sniff a different air up here.
Yeah, we do. I don't know what was sniffing, but
dude, you're giving me aspirations. I mean, look, I got my son who's only 2. Stopping ground balls from his grandfather, who's like kind of rolling them, and he's just smothering.
That's great.
Baseballs at 2. My daughter is 4, and she's looking to get into the school system, which Daddy is not. Not prepared for that.
No dance. Absolutely stay away from dance.
Oh, we have already embraced dance, my man. Like it's just, and you know what, dude? And again, this is me, proud dad talking here, but like she's fucking good. Like she's good,
Yeah.
comparable to the other girls. And this is no offense to the other girls, but I feel like my daughter at age of 4 is really she's picking things up very quickly. And then she's jumping around the house and she's doing her pirouettes and doing all these things.
Cute.
She's good. So like, as long as she likes it and sticks with it, I'm cool with it. Like it'll be.
It's weird. You'll see. Get it. That's great. And I would never say no, but there's volleyball, softball, basketball, anything else too.
Yeah.
Don't just surround her with dance.
No,
Give
no,
her
of
other
course not.
stuff, too.
Of
Let
course not.
her feel it out. Like I'm watching Julia, play basketball now in the 7th grade. She's a street, plays on the side of the house. The difference between her training in softball and Eva's training in softball with coaches and the intimacy of pitching and hitting coaches and playing. They walk on a public high school field like, conditioned and ready to go and know exactly what to do. Eve is becoming a better basketball player. She's in 10th grade now, so she played 7, 8, 9. She's now playing JV. She can shoot the ball. So, it's nice to see Julia just walk on. Julia's like, Dad, I didn't start. I go, listen, bud, she's so conditioned to being pitching at a high level and not to be obnoxious. But if Julia didn't get the MVP, we're like, whoa, what happened? Like striking out 12 batters, playing 2 years up, bigger than everybody. And now she's just starting to really hit. And she's a full lefty. She's so long, bro. And she's still kind of soft because she's just a baby. She's only 12 and she's not a 12-year-old that's fully mature. She's a 12-year-old that's underdeveloped, that's very big and gorky. But you watch her throw a softball or hit now, it's starting to become really smooth and dangerous because of the work she's put in. Basketball, she looks a little like Manute Bol right now. It's kind of fun to see. A little bit of a gingery Manute Bol, little lighter skin, all good. But she's like she's wants to attack. She's got a killer mentality. Like,
I like it.
Your kid
and that starts up top with us. The GMs of their lives. You know what I mean? Like the coaches and the GMs and the ownership and all that stuff. I always put things in like football perspective, like who's running these kids to be respectful, to have that work ethic, to have all that shit. And that stuff that can't be taught, right? It could be instilled and kind of programmed. And it's up to the kid. You don't want to force them and do all this stuff. But if you feel like they're excelling at a specific sport or career, you got to go. You got to go, put the pedal to the metal and get them going. So
that's a great point, Dave. It really is. And it is your job as a parent. Because your kids right now are sponges and can really learn the most from you and your wife. I would even recommend starting to teach Spanish, get a Spanish tutor for your kids.
I think they're teaching that shit in elementary school now anyway. It's one of those things where it's just like starting them early.
It is. And, it's a mistake I made, but I tell my friends, if you can get your kids bilingual, by the time they'll learn 100 times faster now with a tutor. It's expensive. Everything's so expensive today, and I understand. But this is a lifelong thing. And my wife and I had disagreements with this, and this was something I very rarely win and so dumb. But I did come through looking real smart on this one, where we did have a Spanish tutor for 2 years. My kids were really rocking it. And my wife's like, this is tight. The budget's tight. This is where we're at. This is somewhere. And listen, we had just bought a house, whatever.
Yeah.
It was tough times, you spending money. So something that, I had to look past, but I'm sorry I did. But whatever. That's
man. So
thing you can do.
So more of this type of conversation on obviously the following weeks of Roman's rundown. Steve, take us home. And man, it should be a very exciting week ahead. We got the football stuff to talk about next week, more parenting shit to go over next week. So take us home, buddy.
All right. Well, listen, we'll be looking forward to the next show. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate all your insight. Love talking about the Knicks.
Yeah, man.
Dave and I, old school Knick fans. Yankees right around the corner, which we're going to touch base a little bit on the Yankees. Couple of moves they made and didn't make. And then we'll be touching base again about the Super Bowl as we get closer and the chaos that's going on there. And we'll be touching base on a few things that are going on with kids and what you can do to keep your kids engaged and off of that computer and iPhone, doing some different things and different activities like that.
Perfect.
All right. So great time, Dave. We'll see you soon, and peace.